Hey everyone, today is one of those special days where you get to complete a mini collection. Of course, I'm referring to the Republic Commando squad. I was at the Frankenson Collector Show today looking to see if there was anything new. If you guys don't know, this is a local expo here in the LA area. It's every weekend and a lot of the booths get stuff imported from overseas. This is Toy Arena. You can go to their website, toyarena.com. The prices are a bit higher. They're actually quite higher on the website than they are in person, but they had Scorch at a fair price, so I went ahead and pick that up to review for you guys today. This is of course in the plastic-free packaging. We will address that in a moment. We've got this really nice photo or render of the figure on the back of the box here. I think Scorch is my favorite of the batch. I really love the gray and yellow color scheme, but of course we have to talk about the fact that this is in a plastic-free package when the rest are not. So if you are a collector that likes to display your figures in the package, this is just awful. Another collector went so far as to cut out the front of the box and use one of the bubbles from another one of the Delta Squad to display their Scorch with the plastic bubble. I think that's actually a really great workaround. By the way, if you know whose photos these are, please let me know in the comments below so I can credit them in the description. Okay, let's get this box open here. Typical plastic-free packaging here with the figure just in its little blanket. His little feet are gonna get cold. But we've got, this is interesting how this was just kind of tucked in there and just floating around. In previous plastic-free packages, we've had like a little cardboard insert that holds the accessories. I really love the look of Scorch's weapon here. Nice little bits of paint detail on here that I'm a little surprised to see. And then this backpack accessory is actually really nice. Decent amount of paintwork here, those little blue accents on there. Considering this is on the back of the figure, this is really nice to see. By the way, if you're enjoying this review, please click that subscribe button. I am always doing reviews of brand new Black Series figures, and I do my best to get stuff early so I can get reviews out to you before you have to decide for yourself once you see these in store, especially now that we can't see inside the boxes, so it's a lot harder to make that decision in person. We increasingly have to rely on each other's photos and video reviews to make these decisions, which is unfortunate. But, you know, regarding the packaging on this figure being a little bit different than the others, that is not the Star Wars Black Series team's fault. I'm sure they were pretty horrified that Hasbro was making them get rid of the plastic bubbles on these Star Wars figures, especially with like Star Wars figures being in package, kind of being the most iconic toy line. You know, people think, like, just the average person sees a Star Wars figure and goes, you know, oh, you got to keep these in the box, right? It's just kind of like this general knowledge that people have, even though, you know, as collectors, we know that they're not worth that much more when in the package, at least not for newer figures. I know that it's a daily struggle for comic book shop owners who buy figures to basically have to explain to people every day that their Power of the Force and Phantom Menace card backs are not really worth very much in the long run. They're actually often worth less than what they actually paid for them back 20 years ago now. And I have a good feeling that the Star Wars team had to probably fight tooth and nail with the Hasbro executives in order to keep the vintage collection and the retro carded figures with the plastic bubbles, especially when the company made such a public display of going plastic free with their packaging. But hey, should we talk about the figure itself finally? So the backpack actually is a really nice snug fit. You can shake it pretty hard. I had to use a bit of force to try to shake it off here, but then with all the backpacks, you know, as you're posing the figure, they do tend to pop off, so I like to just get my figure posed and then put the backpack on last before putting it on the shelf. And we all know by this point that this body is the Hunter mold, which we have seen used over and over again. This is not the size for this figure that a lot of people wanted. They are much bulkier looking in the game. Here's a custom of Boss from Clone Custom Troopers. Definitely check them out on Instagram if you want to feel terrible about the figures that you bought, because theirs just look so awesome. I found myself really wanting to get a custom set of Delta Squad from them or another customizer, but I really just don't have enough connection to these characters because I didn't play the game when I was younger, so I can't justify that purchase at the moment. I have a moderate prequel and Clone Wars collection on my shelf, but I just really don't have a space for the Delta Squad at the moment. And I honestly didn't even know who they were until I started collecting Black Series a couple years ago. Here's a pretty decent close-up for those of you watching on an iPhone or smaller screen than that. Maybe you're watching on an Apple Watch. Please don't watch on an Apple Watch. I do think that these guys hold up really nicely up close, and every collector loves to complete a set, so we finally have all 4 members of Delta Squad ready to add a nice pop of color on your shelf, and then I can go back to feeling empty inside a few minutes later. Just kidding, of course, but it is really nice to get to actually complete a set. A lot of times toy lines will kind of space out collections like this over several years, just because they know it's going to keep you engaged with the line in the meantime. By the way, I did do a little bit of a gray wash on the boss figure, so if he looks a little bit more weathered, that is why. I'm probably going to do the same on the other figures. They just look a little bit too crisp and white. You know, they do have some weathering on them, but I think that they just kind of need an overall wash to just take that brightness down just a little bit and just look like they've seen as much action as they have. Now that you guys see these all together, let me know how you feel about the scale, if they still feel a little bit too skinny to you. I feel a lot better about them now that I see them all together, but again, I don't have that emotional connection to the characters. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you all next time.